Welcome back. I genuinely believe that I have hit the jackpot with this entire small creator pages. I found this creator called It's Anisha again, and she made this very beautiful and precise video about how the podcast scene has been erupting for the last, I think, 2 to 3 years. And I've wanted to make this video for a very long time, but it's so much effort and research that goes into it that I've always uh, not taken that route basically. But I saw this video and I was very engaged, and I just want to get into the video and talk about how every other creator is starting a podcast and it has nothing of substance. Every podcast is just blabbering, yapping, or if we talk in this lingo, is the in this generation's lingo. Anyway, let's get into it. Let's look at what she has to offer.
Why everyone is starting a podcast? Seems like everyone with an ounce of fame and fraction of recognition is starting a podcast these days. You and your unemployed friends are tired of gossiping and talking in the evening? You can start a podcast where you will be doing the same thing just in front of a camera and a mic and possibly a round table. So all of your Bollywood movie failed and you're not getting a job. You can start a podcast. Tired of your family not listening to your irrelevant conspiracy theories? You can sit down, sir, with a mic. Oh, you want to sit with your family and talk about the country you left? Why don't you do it in front of a camera? That would be nice. Have the worst opinion known to mankind? Yeah, we need you. We need to hear you. Now, I have seen a lot of foreign videos.
Okay, so I have a mic, I have a background, and I have a face. So I was actually genuinely considering starting a live stream, and I thought of starting a podcast, but a podcast would be like recording, editing, ये वो फलाना मुझे नहीं करना वो चीज़ें. तो आई थॉट लाइव स्ट्रीम स्टार्ट करता. तो आई मे स्टार्ट अ लाइव स्ट्रीम soon, or I may have started a live stream by now. So I hope you join in for the worst opinion that you can find on the internet. Also, I am a psychologist. I have done 3 years of bachelor's, I have done 2 years of master's from a government university, and I have practiced for 2 years. Shut up. जितने कमेंट्स आते हैं ना आजकल कि साइकोलॉजिस्ट तो नहीं है तू. Anyway, moving on.
Essays on this topic, and they have covered mostly foreign podcasters. So I decided to make an Indian version of it. The amount of brain rotting content I had to consume to be able to make this video almost felt like a lobotomy. So you might consider watching this entire video. It seems like there are more podcasts than podcast listeners on earth. Every other house will have another podcaster. Now, radio has always been a thing. People used to listen to people talk, listen to songs, but it all started when this guy said, I want to hear people talk on my iPod. And the journey begins. Now, just like a lot of new trend in India, this one also started from a foreign country. But it actually started to eat people's brain after the pandemic. I personally like a good podcast. Someone expert in their field or some people that I probably would never meet in my entire life. But I do have a bone to pick with Indian podcasts. Not because Indian people are doing it, but because I know the potential it has and how it's actually being used. Number one reason why people even start a podcast to begin with is because how easy it is to start. All you need is a camera and a mic and free time. Literally, this could be a podcast if I stretch this video enough and if I didn't have a script. So the work input is very less compared to the content output you get. Think of it this way. From one long podcast, you can make almost 20 reels that you
Okay, before the production point of view, let's talk about the consumer point of view. If I'm driving somewhere very far, like I have to drive from this place to somewhere 200 kilometers away, and I have 3 to 4 hours free of driving, then I would be listening to a podcast. If I'm in the shower and I do not have much to do for the rest of the day, I'll turn on the podcast and take a shower, go cook my food, eat my food with a podcast in the background. But the Indian podcast scene has created a space where it's filled with just bhoot, astrology, fake news, fake ideas, fake beliefs, fake opinions, and then putting it across as if that was the ultimate truth. What she said about the entire thing of you listen to a podcast of people who you probably will never meet in your life. That's true because you want to know their opinions as well. And you get those opinions only via a podcast. But that's second hand knowledge of something that you of the person that you aspire to meet and have a discussion with in your life. But that's fine. But it gets very like tricky with that, with this entire scenario of भूत क्या होता है, स्पिरिचुअलिटी क्या होती है, तुम अपने घर में इस दिशा से उस दिशा कर लो, अपना किचन पूरा चेंज कर लो, बर्बाद कर दो अपना पूरा घर ताकि तुम्हारा वास्तु वगैरह सही हो जाए. ये सारी चीज़ें गेट्स वेरी ट्रिकी बिकॉज even in our generation and 100% our parents generation take those words as the final truth because someone is saying it on a legitimate platform and hundreds of millions of people are listening to it, which is why it gets very tricky. And in general, as consumers, we are very privy to take in information and consider them to be truth if someone is talking on a stage. TED Talks have been a thing for years and years only because of someone with a name and a designation having a stage where he can say whatever he wants, and you will consider it as truth. Now take that TED Talk, put three idiots in a chair, have that guest sit with you and spew everything that he has, every opinion, belief, bullshit that he has, and that's a podcast. So that's the problem. That is the problem with current generation podcasts. If it's not a show for you to enjoy on your couch, then it's belief mongering at this point.
See on your For You page and 20 shorts. So it's very good for business. And talking of business reminded me how almost everything is being promoted on podcasts, from literal brands, films. Also, based on a Reddit thread, I found out that most people in India are paying the podcaster to be on their podcast if they have to promote something. I know the source is Reddit, but still, my speculation also agrees. Because there is no way just 1 month before the release, you're giving 10 different podcasts. It's almost like how they used to go to TV shows to promote their shows. Do you remember those like Sony TV or
Kapil Sharma. Exactly, Kapil Sharma.
Kapil Sharma shows where guests used to come and they used to promote their new film and everything? It's the same thing but through podcasts. And this is something that I have not seen in foreign podcasts. Like
But the
if I see a foreign
but the thing is, when you put the Netflix tag on top of it, you understand that it's a Netflix brand deal and it's a Netflix signed podcast. Recently, Prakhar did one with the crew of Kali Kali Aankhein, and that was a Netflix sponsored thing, and we know. But when the cast of Kali Kali Aankhein comes to a podcast and they promote their own thing on a podcast, then you should be like sensible enough and you should have enough brain cells to understand that it's promotion. साबरमती रिपोर्ट के टाइम पे विक्रांत मसी was everywhere. Vikrant Masi, Riddhi, the other one, they were everywhere. And you should have that basic comprehension to understand that it's not organic conversation, it's promotion. So it gets tricky when you do not include the paid promotion thing. And it's not payment as such, it's payment when it comes to the biggest podcast of the country. The small podcasts do it for like mutual audience collaboration. You get their audience, they get your audience, you get more views, and that's about it. They get uh, more eyeballs. So that's the scene with smaller podcasts. But yeah, I believe bigger podcasts get paid because I am a content producer and
foreign celebrity on a podcast thumbnail on YouTube, I know that they're not just there to promote something. But 9 out of 10 times in India, it's going to be a promotion of some kind, especially the A-listed stars, you can say it. If they are on a thumbnail, they have something going on. And apart from the personal promotion, they also have brand promotion. Imagine you paid for a YouTube free version and Spotify free version just to listen to ad free content, and you're listening to a podcast, and in between the podcast, someone is saying, "This is what the brand is, make sure you buy it." That's annoying. Platform in general rewards like long hours or long watch time. So if you put like 1 hour of yapping session, it's going to hit more numbers than a normal 10-minute long video. My next point is oversaturated spiritual content. Now I understand we Indians are very emotional than the rest of the world, but there is no way that the amount of ghost related podcasts I have seen during this whole research phase, I just cannot believe that how many people are interested in knowing Kala Jadoo or whatever that is.
Okay, about that. It's it's semi this generation having the interest to know about these things because mystery of ghost related, paranormal related things have been very like privy, very interesting for years and years. But these content, spiritual content, kala jadoo, bhoot ki cheezein, they get circulated on WhatsApp by our parents' generation because they believe in those things very adamantly and they want those things to be shared as much as possible. That's why the spiritual podcasts have had a boom in India because our parents keep on sharing those things with their WhatsApp groups, with their children, with their other relatives. That's the reason for the growth of spiritual Kala Jadoo Bhoot related podcasts in India.
And the numbers are definitely crazy. They're having millions of views and it works in India.
लेकिन ये भी तो थियरीज है, पता नहीं ये कितना ट्रू है कितना. व्हाट डू यू थिंक?
ट्रूथ इज व्हाट यू बिलीव इन. वही चीज है
भाई. हो सकता है कि अगर जैसे अगर होता ही है ब्लैक मैजिक तो हो सकता है कि स्पिरिट ट्रैवल कर पाए.
And even in my self help is toxic video, I have mentioned how some emotions can be used to captivate the audience, and that includes rage, fear, loneliness, and shame. In this case, the fear element is used a lot. And in this case, you can see everyone is kind of fearful. They want to know about it, even though they don't care if the information is right or wrong, but it's working. It's literally working every day. And I know if you're watching this video, you're probably not the audience for those kind of podcasts, but still, and I don't understand why people are wasting so much of their time on blind faith. And talking about time,
Because our parents keep keep on sharing these videos. It's the demographic, जो भी कहता है उसको, the audience base is not of our generation, primarily not of our generation. It's the parents. It's the parents.
it reminds me of the next point, quantity over quality. Now, I do understand there are different types of podcasts. Some are meant to educate, some are meant to entertain. Here, if we talk about the education category, a lot of these podcasts don't have any fact check system. So, as a result, a lot of renowned experts present their opinions as facts a lot of the time.
जब आप पर्स को अपनी पैंट के पीछे वाली जेब में रखते हो तो आप लक्ष्मी का अपमान कर रहे होते हो और जो लोग ब्लैक कलर की पर्स को रखते हैं उनके पास भी पैसा नहीं टिकता है. अगर आपको पर्स रखना ही है तो आपको येलो.
You might have seen a lot of
लास्ट येलो कलर का पर्स कब देखा था भाई? That should answer your question. It's all bullshit. It's all bullshit. My wallet is black. I'm fine.
videos on gut health or health in general, and how most of them contradict each other, or most of them will tell the audience that how almost everything is dangerous for your health, which has no scientific basis. And don't even get me started with this entertainment category. in the name of entertainment, a lot of people are just sharing their stories and gossips about their lives that I have nothing to do with.
और कभी आपको आपके नाम से नहीं बुलाया। विशाल के पापा का नाम पढ़ लिया चमन, अब ओ चमन, और पूरी क्लास को किसने बताया चमन नाम इसने बताया, तो क्या बोलते हैं यू डोंट own a woman आप उसकी रील पे
I am ready for a personal story if it is witty enough, I guess. But it's just making them laugh. Most of the time, I feel like I'm third wheeling while two friends are cracking their inside jokes. Either it's gossip or it's about the hookup culture. Every podcast I have seen and heard people and their dating life stories. Especially, I understand if you are in your 20s and that's all you've experienced, that's all that matters to you now, all you think people care about, but we don't.
That's a very valid point. You stay in a bubble. You live in a bubble according to your experiences in life. By 20, you may probably have only seen the hookup culture और the amity के सामने लड़ाई और चरस गांजा ये सब. But the world is more than that. So at that age, all you have to say is मतलब all the opinions and all the stories that you have are of the ayashi, so to speak, and nothing philosophical will come from you because you are not you should not have a podcast. You should actually spend more time building a career which is long lasting, and B, nobody cares. Nobody cares about your stories. Nobody cares about your relationship. Nobody cares.
We actually don't. And the last point I want to make is the shortage of guests. There are only a few important personalities that possess the kind of expertise that topic requires. And on the other hand, there are lots and lots of podcasts. Who would want the guest to be on the show first? Once that number is exhausted, you have probably started to notice that they have started interviewing other podcasters. Like they're literally starting podcast with other podcasters. This is also first in India. This and they're usually asking the same old question: how was your childhood? How was your teenage? Have you had a problem? Even if you don't make it up like on the spot. And how was your career? How did you get success? That's the same pattern. But yeah, maybe sometimes they will ask you a few more questions depending on their interest. Another thing is that not only they have started to invite guests who are relevant for the moment, but also guests who were present in those relevant moments. That's all I had to say, to be honest. I got fed up with a lot of things that I have seen. Just like every other video, I would like to end this one also on a good positive note. So here are my recommendations for good Indian podcasts. WTF by Nikhil Kamath, The Seen and the Unseen, Everything is Everything. These are some good podcasts. Let me know if you have any good suggestions in the comments below. And I will see you next time. Bye.
Great video. Some great points were made. And I really like her perspective. And her research is very commendable. Good job on what you did. And I hope you keep on making good videos like this. Coming to the podcast wala point. Every one of you think that you are important and your opinions matter, but in the true sense of the word, it does not. So before starting a podcast, you need to actually consider whether you are starting a podcast for yourself or the audience, because at the end of the day, a podcast will not give you monetary values if you're doing it for yourself. A podcast is supposed to be a show. It's a show. You entertain people by it. So if you have that capability basically to entertain an audience for an hour straight, then go for it. But if you don't, then please do not start another podcast. We already have enough and we do not want them to exist either. We've had some very bad podcasts and we do not want more replicas of them just because they are getting successful. That's about it. मिलते हैं अगले वीडियो में. Bye.